Welcome to my video Sociology of Women and Introduction. Sociology is born out of the revolutionary ferment of the mid-19th century Europe. The French Revolution and the Industrial Revolution are the landmark events in the birth, emergence and growth of sociology as a discipline. The changed world scenario due to these two important events in the history of Europe led social scientists, especially sociologists, to make an attempt to make sense of the world, and sociology was born out of it. The concept of gender was introduced in sociology through the gender politics of second wave feminism. Now, who is a feminist? Feminist is one who is conscious of women's oppression in society, at work and within the family, and takes conscious action to change the situation. A man can be a feminist, a woman can be a feminist, but largely when this feminist movements took place, women came forward to talk about the issues that were impacting women adversely. At the end of the 20th century, sociologists have drawn attention to the issue of gender, feminism, and women's studies. And the concept of gender was introduced into the sociological study of society. Historically, sociologists have strived very hard to give sociology the status of a science, by asserting that the task of sociology is to carry out research into the causes of social phenomena such as crime, unemployment, etc., to establish, control, and reform the social system. This striving of the sociologists to give sociology the status of a science was largely because of the fact that they were highly impressed by the progress made by the physical sciences, which in turn had given rise to industrial revolution. However, the view that sociology can be scientific is seriously challenged, as it is not possible to carry out experimental research that can establish causation on human societies. It is impossible for sociologists to be value-free and objective about their subject matter because they deal with human beings, and they being human beings themselves, it's very difficult to be value-free and objective in a study of society. Human beings are different from inanimate objects and other species, as they act purposefully, whereas the inanimate objects are amenable for manipulation, whereas the human beings are not. We should understand the perspectives of the human actors rather than just observing their external behavior. Feminist critique of sociology can be considered as the beginning point of the birth of sociology of women. In the 1960s and 70s, women began to express the feeling that sociology did not relate to their experiences because it examined the world only from the perspective of the men. With the emergence of second wave feminism and the slogan "personal is political," feminist social scientists began to underline the gaps between their experiences as women and their sociological knowledge. Hence, they were highlighting the presence of sexism, that is, prejudice or discrimination against a gender on the basis of sex. In this case, prejudice or discrimination against women because of their sex in sociological knowledge. And Oakley gives three explanations for this sexism in sociology. According to her, sociology has been biased from its origin, that sociology is predominantly a male profession, that the ideology of gender results in the world being constructed in particular ways and in assumptions being made about how we explain differences between men and women. Let's see how sociology has been biased from its origin. Sexist assumptions were built into sociology from its origins, and these underlie sociological theory and research. Sociology developed in 19th century, and sociologists studied political and social changes, including liberal theory with its emphasis on individualism, capitalism, and the consequent class relationships that developed and the impact they had on people's lives. These changes included the growth of factory production, new class divisions, and relationships, the growth of politically conscious male working class, and the extension of political participation of adult male population. The main changes concerning women were the increased separation of home from work, the separation of production from consumption and reproduction, and the development of the ideology that women's place is in the home. These developments took place due to the introduction of the factory system of production. Otherwise, home was the center of production, consumption, work, and everything, wherein men and women took part equally. Now, the factory system of production separated home from work, production from consumption, and it gave rise to the ideology that women's place is in the home, as only men could go out to work in the factories. Further, women became increasingly associated with the domestic or private spheres of home and domestic relationships, and the men with the public sphere of politics and marketplace. Sociologists concentrated on the public sphere of government and the workplace and ignored the private sphere of home and the domestic relationships, sites where women were present. Sociology failed to develop analytical tools that can be used to understand the public and private spheres and the changing relationship between the two. The second explanation for sexism in sociology is predominantly a male profession. The main contention of feminist thought has been the claim that social knowledge is related to division of sex and gender. Men and women have different experiences, as a result have different standpoints from which they construct their knowledge. All social knowledge is related to the gender of the observer or the theorist. Thus, conventional mainstream theories were seen as based on male standpoints. Despite its claim to value neutrality, the feminists labeled sociology a male stream discipline, which was mainly concerned with research on men and the theories that naturalized male standpoint. Therefore, women are invisible in social theory and social research. According to feminists, this gendered knowledge must be challenged by theorizing and research conducted from a female standpoint. Men and women have different bodily involvements and experiences, therefore, have different standpoints. Third explanation for sexism in sociology is the ideology of gender results in the world being constructed in particular ways and an assumption being made about how we explain differences between men and women. Feminists argue that gender is a social construction. That is, the roles that men and women perform are not biologically inherited but socially superimposed. Sex is the biological or anatomical differences between males and females, whereas gender is the socially valued behavior patterns superimposed on men and women through the process of socialization. Historical and anthropological research suggests that what is considered as appropriate roles for men and women are specific to particular societies and particular times. They vary society to society and time to time. Therefore, such explanations based on biological differences are inadequate. It is necessary for sociology to develop perspectives that are adequate both for explaining gender divisions and for taking account of gender differences. Mainstream sociology has seen women's role as natural and not investigated them. The tools, concepts, and theories developed by sociologists is to investigate the public world of men and are inadequate for investigating the world that women inhabit and the relationships between men and women. Consequently, sociological knowledge portrayed women as men saw them, not as they saw themselves. According to Anne Oakley, the male orientation may so color the organization of sociology as a discipline that invisibility of women is structured male view rather than a superficial flaw. Even when women were included in research, they were often presented in a sexist manner. Findings made on all male samples had been generalized for the whole population. Textbooks add women as an appendix, an extra topic, or chapter rather than incorporating research findings on women. In conclusion, what we can say is feminist criticism of mainstream sociology makes us to realize that we need to ask new and different questions, and in order to answer them, we need to develop new tools, new concepts, and new theories. To sum up, what we can say is sociology has been concerned with research on men and by implications with theories for men. The research findings based on all male samples are generalized to the whole of the population. The areas and issues of concern to women were frequently overlooked and seen as unimportant. The sex and gender are seldom seen as important explanatory variables.